So shout out to Amy for asking me to make this video. So the first question is, why should I be on LinkedIn as a university student? You know, I don't really have anything to post about. I'm not working yet. Why do I actually need to be on it? So I'm just going to give you some very quick reasons as to why you should have it, why it's really helpful for you, and then also how to use it well. So I think there are 3 reasons why it's helpful to have it. Number 1, building your network. You might think that building a network isn't very important, but actually it's something that's so key when you are in industry. And you might be thinking as well, how do I build a network when I'm in university? Well, actually adding all of your uni colleagues whilst you're at university is really helpful, because they're going to become pretty much all of your colleagues when you're in industry. Also, adding your lecturers is really, really great because they are often experts in their fields, and if you are interested in their area, you can very easily reach out, particularly if you show interest in their research area. You can get connected really simply and ask them some interesting questions as to what they're doing. And that just allows you to build your network a bit. Number 2 is probably the biggest thing for LinkedIn is it's basically an online CV that's constantly adapting, and anyone can see it and at any time, so it's always good to keep it updated. Effectively, it's just a way of showing your professional profile, so your experience, but also the things that you're interested in, and it can be a place for employers to go and look at you and see what you've done and what you've learned. So it's a really great place as a constantly changing and adapting CV. And the third one's just a sort of simple one, which is you get, I think you still do, get 30 days of free LinkedIn Learning when you first sign up. So if you haven't got LinkedIn yet, LinkedIn Learn is a great way of just gaining a few sort of training courses that can be about sort of specific skills like Excel, or more general things like management and dealing with stress. And then the best thing is that you can get certificates for those training courses directly on your LinkedIn profile. I'll show you some of the ones that I've got, and that can be a good way of just showing what experience you've got. So I like the 80-20 rule, which says that 80% of the outputs are driven by 20% of the results. And I think you can apply this to so many things, including LinkedIn. So if you focus on making 20% of your LinkedIn profile as good as you can, I believe that drives sort of 80% of the good outputs from that profile. And I'm just going to sort of detail to you what those things are in that 20%. So the key areas are a good profile picture and a good cover photo, just because that gives someone a really good gauge as to what you're all about, because your cover photo can be related to the industry, and then also your photo, just you smiling, makes such a big difference. Like, I know there are loads of crazy stats about people who have a profile photo are far more likely to get connection requests and build their network faster. It's so simple, but it's so effective. Just a quick note about the profile photo: make sure it's a little bit smarter than what you do on Facebook, just because this is a professional profile. The other one is having a good, clear job description. The note with this is stay clear of very basic job descriptions. Try and think a little bit outside the box. There was a really good example that I can't find at the moment, which was someone basically making a joke about wanting to be an engineer because they wanted to be like Tony Stark and build Iron Man suits, basically. Now, this is something I've not done very well, but looking at your job description and sort of writing it out in a slightly more interesting and effective way can help you to stand out. And the third sort of thing within the 20% to make yourself stand out is keeping your experience up to date. Put all of the experience that you've got, that's anything that's relevant to work. It doesn't have to be just sort of jobs, anything that's important to what's sort of formed your professional profile. And then the key thing with this is adding sort of descriptions as to what you learned and what you actually did, because that's such a sort of good example of who you are, what you've done, and employers can just look at it and see exactly what you've been all about. So keeping that up to date is also one of the really key important things within that 20%. So that's really the basics of how to use it. And I just wanted to go one slight step forward into how you can use it to be a bit more creative and interesting. So for me, the biggest thing is this idea of showing your work. So I've read a book called Show Your Work by Austin Kleon, and it's just so helpful to think about how sort of impactful and powerful showing your work can be, even if it just seems really boring and mundane to you. That's something I've tried to do whilst I've been on placement, and I'm trying to do a bit at university, is just showing what I'm doing, because often people are far more interested in the sort of boring, mundane, day-to-day things that you think are boring that actually might be quite interesting. For example, things that you learn in your lectures. So you've got to think about it. What is it for you? What projects are you working on? I'm working on soft robotics in food manufacturing at the moment, so I'm going to try and show a bit of that. What is your degree, and therefore what things can you show that you're working on at the moment? So I think using it as a platform to share what you're up to is really great. The way I did that on placement was sharing some of my YouTube videos about what I was learning on placement, and one key video that I made was about sort of learning about how to commute well, and I posted that on LinkedIn. And actually one of the people I was working with watched it and said he found it really, really helpful because it encouraged him to actually speak to his family a bit more whilst driving. And that bit of feedback meant more to me than anything else I'd made or done on there. So showing your work can actually have an impact on other people, whether or not you realise it. And the other thing that I just want to reiterate is it's a great place to build your network. The example I'll give here is, so when you're on placement or you're working, you'll probably have a work phone and you'll build a lot of numbers into that phone and build your network through that. But when you finish, you give that work phone back and everyone, you lose all those contacts. So if you add them on LinkedIn, nobody can take that LinkedIn profile away from you, and you'll always have that network available to you. And having a network is so important because it's quite often more about who you know rather than what you know. So having a network on LinkedIn is really, really helpful. If you can't tell, I'm definitely not an expert. And to be honest, I should probably be putting a lot of these things that I'm talking about into practice a lot more. I've been out of my job at ProSlan back at uni for the past 2 months, and I still have a ProSlan cover photo up. So I'm not claiming to be an expert, but these are just sort of things I would do. So if you're here, you might be looking for jobs at the moment. I've made 2 videos around sort of applying to jobs, CVs and interviews, so I'll put them up here. If you want to watch them, they might be helpful for you. So if you made it this far, thank you so much, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.